So, the NBA playoffs continue with storylines aplenty. And the first one from last night, that was a grown-ass win by the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Nuggets were playing very good basketball and pushing hard, and they were taking it to them at points. For the Thunder to shoot their way back in, to defend their way back in, that is, for this era of the Thunder, that is the biggest win that this group has had. To have that kind of a pushback, to respond, and not just make it close, to come back and take the lead, and then hold that lead and look like you are going to, and then Jokic hits a absurd shot over Chet Holmgren and ends up getting the bucket, and it's a tie game. That can be a little bit like, but for them to respond again and to come out and get that win and take a 3-2 series lead, that is the best win this team has had in this era. And yeah, home court helped out a ton, but a lot of teams would have folded in that particular situation. So give them a gigantic load of credit for how they were able to handle that against a defending champion. And I don't want it to get lost in how well Oklahoma City played. Jokic was brilliant. That was basketball mastery from him last night. And for them to not get a win coming out of that, they do still have one game at home. They're going to have to win one in OKC, but they are at least going home now for Game 6. But that has to be debilitating for Denver, and that is a real, grown win for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And a lot of groans went out when Jason Tatum goes down with an injury. You could tell right away that it was probably going to be a while. And just like, you see him down, he is writhing on the court, and he's holding that back area. And it's like, man, I know what that looks like. And we saw it not long ago with Dame. It kind of feels like that. And it felt like, for whatever reason on this one, no one really wanted to say it. And then at some point, someone was like, so Achilles, right? And everyone's like, yeah, probably. And that ends up what it is. So that's probably most, if not all, of next year, right? For Tatum now, too. So it's heartbreaking for him. You could tell how much that pained him when that was happening. And he was having an unbelievable game. Like, he has had, I know he gets shit on a lot, and it's easy to kind of point to, oh, well, look at this great game that Brown had to end up giving them a win. And look at all these times where it wasn't him being that top guy. But, man, when he is on, it is almost unstoppable. And he was on in that game. And for them to still lose, and then for him to go out in that fashion in that game, that is really, really, really tough. And now, look, they could still win this series. With Brown being Batman now, and you still have a very good rotation of players in Boston, they could still take this one, but it became a significant uphill climb, and more unlikely than likely at this point, for sure. So you don't want to dive too far into this, but boy, does this make this an interesting offseason in Boston. There's a lot of talk about what Boston was going to do this offseason anyway, about like the second apron is coming up, so how do we handle this thing now? And now that this makes that even louder, because now what do? We just talked a couple segments ago about how like tanking hasn't necessarily worked for certain teams, right? And the ping pong balls helping out the teams with 1.5% chance and 3% chance the last couple of years. So does it behoove you to just like, yeah, screw it, everything gone, and we'll just build around Tatum and first overall pick X in the next one or something like that? Probably not. And I don't think that's the way to go about this. But they were going to have to make a move anyway. Does this change what that move is now? I didn't really know what way they were going to go before. With like Brown's contract is huge, and that just, if you're trying to get under the apron, that just does it, right? Like now there's not a lot of teams that can take that, but you move him, and hey, look at that, problem solved. And you still have a very good kind of set around that you can kind of play with. But now with Tatum out probably for most of next season, if you move Brown as well, now all of a sudden like you're like White is good, KP is good, Holiday's good, but that's not a top 3 of a contending team, right? So it really does, I think, change kind of the math for what the Boston Celtics are going to look to do in this upcoming offseason, and just how that apron is kind of coming up on them. This is a big moment, though, for Brown. These next, however long this goes, and whatever happens next season, this is a big moment for Jaylen Brown. And I get, like, he was He was spectacular in the finals run last year. But he was really bad when Tatum was banged up and they needed him to go out and win them some games and get them some buckets back in 22. He was really, really bad in that stretch, and it did him no favors. And he still gets the bag, and he still has a championship now and all of that. But this is going to be a very important stretch for him to kind of show that he can be that guy for the Boston Celtics.